isn't it? Because you go live on here and there's like a whole minute delay, if not more than that. But I've got the chat up here because this always works a lot quicker than the chat here on the side.
Yeah, I've got my phone too, so in case we need it.
Yeah, it's always handy to keep just in case. And also, I think from here, because it's on my channel, I can like do things if I need to. It's like my chat is just mods right now.
It's just all mods.
That's all right, though. Yeah. Oh, let me just turn myself down. All right, guys, I think we are live from what I can see on my phone here. So you all know who I am, obviously, because you wouldn't be here otherwise. And I have with me here, I have my sister from another mister, Jana Roller Fit. She also has a channel, hasn't uploaded lately just because life has happened. Jana is very busy. She is a mother. She is a trainee vet tech. So she works full time. She's also a coach and she's also a personal trainer. And she's an ex-fat. That's like your thing for your channel, isn't it? She used to be, what, 350 pounds, I think? Something like that?
310 was my
310.
highest. Yeah, 310.
Yeah. So, and then she did this whole amazing transformation, did a show, and yeah. So I figured I'll have her on here because we like to talk fitness and health and all of that. And we both have had our past with disordered eating, just different ends of the scale. So what I have here is I do have a list of questions that people have sent me and that I've taken from the community tab. So we'll go through that, see how quick that goes, and then we'll probably open up the chat maybe to you guys if you have any questions. And we'll just go from there, basically. But let me just say hi to all of you. Hi, Scaramouche. Hi, Ashley Francesca. Bao. Salzanic Legend. That's a new name. Hi, nice to see you. Leland Gaunt. Aisha. Leila Lux. My chat is full with mods right now. It's difficult. Like, normally there's like one or two, and now all of you guys. But it's all right. It's all right. So, first of all, how are you doing, Jana? Tell us. How is life treating you at the moment?
Doing really well. I feel like, the clouds are parting and I'm starting to get back to normal. Like you mentioned before, I just had a lot of crazy things going on, just working through injuries, working through just the whole COVID thing. And of course, it's just personal family stuff. Like my grandmother passed away and just a whole lot of things was going on. So like you mentioned, that's kind of why my YouTube channel has been a little bit bare lately, is just because I have been dealing with some mental stuff, personal life stuff. And I'm a firm believer in dealing with those things off of YouTube and off of the internet, just because they are personal. And I didn't want to like put any false ideas out there that like everything's fine and I'm doing so well. And not that it was terrible, but I believe in being authentic and honest. And honestly, I was just very overwhelmed and didn't want to put that idea out there that, that false positivity, that toxic positivity, and had to deal with my own stuff. So, but other than that, things are much better. I just started training for my first powerlifting meet, which is going to happen next year. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, other than that, everything's good. Kids off to school. How about you? How are you doing?
Yeah, things are going all right. I was a little bit poorly for a little while, trying to understand my body with the change in hormones, not being a contraceptive, but all is good. I'm going to eat and train, like Greg just said, for only 3 days because I forgot I'm going away on Friday. I forgot I was doing that, so I have to edit it on Thursday. So I'm going to do that tomorrow. And I'm just really enjoying putting more focus on my second channel, doing the challenges and, doing a bit more fun editing and, do some time here and there, like with the reactions. But I'm finding it's one of those things you have to be in a certain mindset for. And it's a very negative, you end up being negative. And I think like sometimes that can weigh heavy on you. So sometimes you do need to take a step away from that. So
yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah. All right. So shall we go to the questions?
Yes, let's do the questions.
All right, let's do it. So the first one it's in regards to lady times and how we go about training and eating around that time. Now, I can say for myself personally, I've been on the contraceptive for almost 20 years. So I never really get heavy flows. It's not something that has been incredibly debilitating for me. I get a bit moody. I get a bit tired. I tend to just listen to my body. If I'm very bloated or I get very constipated. Unfortunately, that happens for me in the run-up. Is one of those things. I just make sure to increase my fiber. I make sure to cut out certain carbohydrates, and I just find eating healthier, cutting processed food out helps, and I do more cardio. Like that's what I find helps for me. But I don't know. I think it differs. What about yourself?
So I can speak this because I'm just ending my lady time. Not like anybody needs to know my schedule, but just finishing.
We're all friends here. It's fine.
It's very fresh on my brain. Is I have to really pay attention to my body. Like I am really grateful that the program that I have been starting is a strength training program, and I started on deload week, which is great because I've never really done a deload week. So it's a whole new world for me going through this strength training stuff. But I was really grateful for that because I tend to really pull back on, I still work out if my cramps are really, really bad, which they tend to be just because I've always had kind of hormonal problems. And I started getting my cycles at a very young age, like 7 years old. And so I've been dealing with this for a long time. And my cycles were always really terrible and really heavy and super painful. I find not so much as bad as they were when I was younger, but I do get really bad cramps and I do get like a pretty heavy flow. So sometimes I will just pay attention to my body and just do cardio if my cramps are really bad. My back also is very sensitive during my moon time, lower back pain. So I avoid anything to do with any pressure on the lower back. So I don't deadlift, I don't squat, and if I do, it's usually body weight or just form work. And I'm very, very careful. Sometimes I'll just do upper body stuff. Most of the time I'm like, I'll just slam some Advil and just go work out anyway, because it tends to help my cramps. It actually makes me feel better. In terms of cravings and things like that, I get wicked bad cravings when I have my cycle. So I want all the chocolate and all the peanut butter. So I will often have like chocolate and peanut butter smoothies, protein shakes. And because I live in Canada and weed is legal, I'll often go to a dispensary and they'll make like
brownies
chocolates.
Or something.
Not brownies, but I'll get like, they have like a chocolate bar that is trackable. The macros are on the back. So when nice. I know my time is coming, I will go and get myself one of those chocolate bars and I'll have a square or two before I go to bed, and it helps with cramps and it helps curb that craving. So you just need to pay attention to your body, drink lots of water, still get in exercise, but maybe you just have to modify a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's always important to pay attention to and listen to your body, because we all know we have tiredness, and sometimes you have cravings, and you do need to eat more because you are genuinely just, the body's hungry and it needs some extra food. And other times it's cravings. And I find for example, if I don't often get chocolate cravings, but if I do, I tend to get like the 80 or like 90, not even that so much, like 70 or 80% chocolate, because it kind of takes away the urge, but it's not nice enough to sit there and eat a whole bar. I'm sure somebody will probably like it, but it's not really like, it's just to get the taste a little bit, you know?
Yeah. And the big important thing too is that if you're craving something, also listen to your body, like why you're craving that thing. Like, because oftentimes when we're craving sweets, our body is looking for something else. It's not that your body's
deficiency.
It's a deficiency. And for me, I find that I need a little bit more calories during my moon time because of my flow and how heavy it is.
Yes.
That's also wearing on your body. Like your body's doing a lot. So I tend to eat a little bit more protein and a little bit more carbs, like in terms of fruit, because I'm craving sweetness. So I'll have like strawberries, or, I'll have a protein shake with banana and peanut butter and something like that, paying attention. But I also, if I know that my craving is so strong, I will also work into my macros, like a serving of ice cream, but I track it. I'm being smart about it. Right? Yeah. So,
that's a good way to go about it. Usually if I have cravings, I'll give it like a day or two. And then if I still have the cravings after a few days, then I'll go and have it. Thanks for the super chat, Tia. I appreciate it. And and safe travels to the airport. Be careful. But yeah, I if I have a craving, I'll see if it's still there in a few days' time. And usually I find that even by the end of the day or the next day, it's just completely gone. And then, you know, but sometimes it's good to also indulge in moderation. Yeah. So anyway, next question. When you're not in the mood to train, what do you do?
Train anyway.
Yeah, exactly. No excuses. What's that all about? You just go in. Like, there's no such thing. There's no such, look, I think you can tell when it is time to take a step back. And that's usually when you're very achy, you're very tired. And it's not just like, oh, I've had a busy day, tired. It's like just almost this overwhelming fatigue. And then I think you can go still train. You have to obviously listen to your body, but play it by ear. And you can always adapt your training if I'm not in the mood to train. So for example, today I'm going to do 3 days of training tomorrow, which I didn't intend on doing because Monday is normally my rest day, but then I kind of went training today and I just did slow training, time on the tempo, very slow repetitions, high repetitions. And there's ways you can go about still training without exerting yourself too much. But that's what I do. Like, I rarely have a bad session. I rarely go to the gym and I'm not in the mood and walk away feeling worse. I always walk away feeling better.
Yeah. Nobody ever goes, like, I sure regret working out. Like, I think we mentioned that before on one of our live streams. Somebody asked about that. And it's true. You never really regret it. And motivation is an emotion. It comes and goes, right? So when you're not motivated to work out, that's probably when you should be working out the most. So I will always try to get my brain and my body into it. And sometimes it's not, but even if I just go and do a workout, even if it's just walking on the treadmill, which rarely ever happens, normally my best sessions are the ones where I don't feel like doing it because I have to get so revved up to go and do that session. I will put on like heavy metal. I will slam pre-workout. I will
double scoop it. Wow,
dry shoot it. I will like do whatever. Like I will talk to myself. Yeah, just inject my creatine. You know,
I know, right?
Pumped up.
Oh, we do bodybuilders, right? Just inject shit left, right, and center.
I was gonna say something, but it could get me into trouble, so let's not. But yeah, no, like I will just do whatever it takes. Like, if anything, when I'm really feeling like not doing it, I will make myself take pre-workout because I won't sleep unless I go and burn it off. So I have to do something and just get myself to the gym. Because once you're there, you're kind of into it. You're like, okay, let's go. And I even talk to myself. Like, I'll be like, come on, you pussy, let's go. Yeah. Like, let's do it. So whatever you need to do, like, just know that motivation comes and goes. But when you're feeling the least motivated is when you need to do it the most.
Yeah, and I often find actually, I'd say maybe 80% of the sessions where I'm not actually in the mood to go and train, I actually have a really good session and I end up being strong because I don't know what it is, but it's because I think I am just like wound up and angry. And then instead of just having that pent up frustration, I actually end up channeling that into my lifts and I end up having like really strong lifts because I'm just like, oh, I can fucking do this, you know?
I'm the same way. And it's just, I am competitive. And so for me, it's like, one of the things that I use, and this may sound terrible, but I'll like think back of like every mean thing that somebody has said to me when I was bullied in school. And it just gets me so fired up. Like, it just makes me so mad that I just go into the gym and I will just crush it because it's just all that energy of, you know, proving them wrong and proving myself wrong. Like, I just have all these little different ways that I trick myself into getting there and doing it. And some days it's automatically there and you don't have to talk to yourself. And there's times where the day is just bad. Like last week, I had a terrible day at work. There was lots of really tragic things that happened. And I just, at the end of the day, it was just automatic. I need to go to the gym or else I'm going to eat. So I don't feel motivated to go. I don't want to go, but I need to go. And so it was mentally pushing myself and going to the gym because I knew that if I stayed home, I would eat. Because my past is an emotional eater, is emotionally binge eating. So I need to get myself out of that situation. So just going and doing it, just get it done.
Yeah. So just to let the guys know that we will look at the chat towards the end of the, like, sort of when we've gone through the questions that have been written down, because otherwise I think it's going to just get a little bit messy. So we are keeping an eye on the chat, but if you've got questions, just wait until a little bit later and we'll open up the floor for questions. Open up the floor. Listen to me. But anyway, talking of pre-workouts, I got a question on pre-workouts, and are we concerned about the potential long-term damage that it does to your body? I haven't really thought about it. I don't really think it's things like caffeine and stuff like that. I mean, caffeine, some people say that it is bad for you. I think it depends on in how much you use it. So I personally only have a pre-workout in the mornings before I train, and that's pretty much the only caffeine I have. Sometimes I'll have a coffee during the day, but I think the last coffee I had was yesterday, and then before that it was 2-3 weeks ago I had a coffee during the week. So I go through waves of being a coffee drinker, but if I do, it's usually in the morning, and then I tend to have a pre-workout, but I use different pre-workouts depending on my mood. So I have some that are very strong, and I'll use them for leg days or when I know I have a big session. Otherwise, I just use milder ones just to give me a little bit of a kick, get that feeling of like, ants in my face, get me revved up, and then that's it. But I haven't really thought about the long-term side effects, and I don't even know if there is any. I would imagine if there is, it may be from coffee. Maybe you can get a come down from just getting caffeine out, like have a, what do you call it? Like a detox from, like, not detox, but you know what I mean, where you stop drinking coffee, like you can get headaches. So maybe withdrawal. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. There can be, like, pre-workout isn't meant to be used all the time. It's kind of like a backup, right? And it's for those days, except for if you're like us and you're like, just use it every day. It could be, I might have a pre-workout addiction. I don't know. But I like to use it every day for me, because I know when I train, I'm training either really early in the morning or at the end of my workday. And both times I'm really tired. So I need something to just like kind of help get me going. Long-term effects, there have been some studies that show that like you can get adrenal fatigue, not damage, but your adrenal glands can get really tapped out if you're constantly taking in caffeine. And most pre-workouts are really high in caffeine, but you can also get stim-free workouts if you're somebody that doesn't want any caffeine or any stimulants. Those are a little bit less on, long-term side effects than ones with caffeine. Your body gets adapted to the amount of caffeine that you're drinking. So eventually, if you're having a stim pre-workout, it's going to wear off eventually. And the next thing, you're going to have to keep upping and taking more. Yeah. So like for me, for example, last year, because of my training, I was taking fat burners, which were high in caffeine. And then I was taking pre-workout, and I was working out twice a day. And then I was also drinking coffee. So I felt like I definitely had some side effects from going a whole 6-7 months with just really high caffeine. So afterwards, I had to kind of like whittle down how much. So now I just have a pre-workout, and I have 1 coffee a day, which is usually a huge giant cup. So which is more like 3 cups of coffee. And I don't take fat burners or anything anymore. So before I started, and I only just started using pre-workout again, I was just using more or less food to try and get the energy there. I also wasn't burning as much calories.
I love that feeling though. I'm not like, I absolutely love that feeling when the pre-workout kicks in, and you can just feel like your skin tingling, and it's just,
and you're just like,
yeah. And like some pre-workouts, like I notice a difference in training, and it's definitely not a mental thing either, because I do notice I have more endurance, I am more focused. And it's not even with all pre-workouts, because I've had different I kind of rotate the same ones, and I do use different pre-workouts for different workouts. But not having a pre-workout, like I notice it if I'm using a different brand altogether, which usually it gives me like more tingles, because it's like a new, like a different mix of ingredients and stuff like that. But the workouts just aren't the same, and they consistently aren't. So they do work. And I don't know, like, I guess you do have to be mindful for something like adrenal fatigue. But then as long as you sleep properly and you rest up otherwise,
And you're eating
And
well and drinking enough water, and
it's like, I don't know, like it's the gym, isn't it? It's a risk you take. Is it just as bad? I
is
don't
it
know. I
going
don't
to
see
kill
it.
you? No, it's not going to kill you. It's not going to make you really, really sick. It just will
The
increase.
risk.
The risk is just, you're just going to increase your caffeine tolerance if you're using
Yeah.
a stimulant, which I love stim pre-workouts. Like I want, same thing as you, I want the tingling. I want to feel focused. And I noticed a
be off my
huge
face.
difference.
Like...
That's right. I want to be just like, ready to go when I work out. And I find that I don't get that when I don't use one, or if I don't use a stimmed workout, then, or pre-workout, then it's just not the same. And I guess like when you've been training for so long, like, you know, your output that you want to be able to go into the gym and like give it everything that you have. So for me, it's like using pre-workout helps me get there, but I don't use it twice a day anymore. Like I did have to cut back because I did notice that I was feeling really, really tired.
Yeah.
And if I have a lot of caffeine, my anxiety also increases.
Yeah, that's true.
With anxiety. So it's a give or take here. And so you can choose like what you want to do, if you want to be injecting that pre-workout or not.
Yeah, exactly. I prefer to snort it. It's quicker. That's joking. Oh, I can already see people all coming for me. Sorry about that. Right. All right. The question is, how do you overcome feeling fat? And I don't think you ever do. Like, I think you do. Like, I don't, sometimes when I say I feel fat for me, because I know what I can look like, what I have looked like. And even though I love looking stage lean, I know it's not feasible, but I don't feel myself to be in a delusion of I am fatter than what I am. Like, I don't have that anymore. I used to have that a lot when my eating disorders were bad. I would think I was enormous, and I don't have that anymore. Now it's more that sometimes I don't quite realize how muscular I'm pretty much aware of it, but sometimes it's like, oh, you know, especially if I stand next to like another woman, then I'm like, oh shit, like, yeah, I am quite a bit bigger, but it's not something that I'm worried about. It doesn't bother me. Like, I'm pretty happy looking at myself in the mirror. Like, this is probably the happiest I've been with myself in my whole life. So
yeah, no, like, and I can feel that too. Like when I, after I lost the weight, so people will think that after weight loss, you know, you just are magically just so happy and positive and life is great and you don't have any self-confidence issues. You start to develop a whole new set of self-confidence issues. And that is like also a big reason too for me not being on social media as much lately, or not posting as much lately, is because I have been struggling with my own body images since my last show. Because my last show, I got to my lowest weight, and then all of this like COVID and life things happened where I couldn't continue to give 110% of my mental game into my fitness and my training, which is okay, because sometimes life stuff matters more than, you know, looking a certain way, and you have to take care of yourself and you have to take care of your family. And so things can change. So I was struggling with body image issues because when you've been really obese in the past, it's terrifying to go back there, because I remember of just how crappy I felt and how I just didn't have mobility. I was depressed all the time. I had no energy. I just felt like garbage. So I'm scared to go back there. So putting a little bit of weight on again, which staying at my stage weight wasn't realistic at that time, because I was very extreme to get there. And like, that's what a lot of people don't understand, is like preps are extreme and you're not meant to stay there. Although it is my goal to get back there. I'm now not prepping for a show. I'm doing things differently. So I know that I can get back to that weight because that's realistic for me, because I still have body fat to lose. But in terms of feeling fat, like I still struggle with that because I used to be big, and I'm always comparing myself, like struggling with comparing myself to other people, because now I have loose skin. Oh, why don't I look like her? Why can't I lose? You know, I have this kangaroo pouch, I call it, which I'm always going to have until I get surgery. And so I'm always struggling with those feelings, especially going into the gym and you see there's other women there and they're much smaller and you get into your head about it. So I have been focusing on performance. So if you find that you're struggling with feeling fat, do what's going to help you not feel that way. Eating well, exercising, focusing on something else other than what you look like. And I had to stop and appreciate I still have fluff. I gained some weight back. I'm okay with that. But I'm strong as fuck. I'm finding out that I am like wicked strong and I've lost 155 pounds. I'm not 310 pounds anymore. So you have to really focus on the mentality behind of like, why is it that you're feeling fat? Are you feeling because maybe you're eating the wrong foods and you're bloated? Are you not exercising and your body is telling you that, you know, you need to get up and move? But then also focusing on the positives that your body does for you outside of how it looks. It carries you every day. It makes sure that you can breathe. It makes sure that, you know, you're well supported and that you're able to experience life through having a body. So we need to take care of it. So there's so many different ways to trick your mind into getting off of just being so focused on the aesthetic.
Yeah, and I think also the second you get into weight training, and it's something like, for me, anybody that is actively trying to change how they look, like I see them as bodybuilders. Like, you don't have to compete to be a bodybuilder. Anybody that's actively working on their physical body to change it for whatever, well, maybe not like, I guess through the efforts of weight training, maybe, but there should be some weight training involved, probably. But everybody that does that is a bodybuilder. And the second you start working out, you will always find something you can improve. But I think it's one of those things that it's not a bad thing, because once you become complacent, you probably will just stop because you've hit your perfection, if you like. And once you've hit that, then what's the point of continuing training? What's the point of doing anything if you feel like you've achieved the end goal? You've defeated the final boss, right? Like, there's no point to continue. And I think once you get into training, there will always be something you can improve on, whether that is a body part, or whether that is just strength. Like I like to do a combination of both. I like to play around with different training methods. And I think you'll become more accepting of who you are, but I don't think you'll ever, I don't know. I just don't think many people are ever in that place where they go like, oh, I'm done. My body's perfect now. I don't know. It probably would make you a bit of a dickhead if you think like that, to be honest. I think if you think you're perfection, you are finished, you are done. Not that whether you're too small or too big, or in general, I think people are always looking to improve somewhat on themselves, and that's not a bad thing, I don't think.
No, it's not. And like, that's also another reason why I switched to a powerlifting competition and strength training, is because there is no room for me to go anywhere else in bodybuilding at this moment, because bodybuilding is an aesthetic sport. And I cannot compete in any other categories right now with my loose skin, with things like that. It's just, I would be torturing myself mentally with comparison if I continued to compete with where my body is. Do I still want to do bodybuilding? Hell yes. I have plans down the road. Once I have my surgeries and once I get back, like, it's a 10-year plan to like get back into bodybuilding, because I love the sport and I love, you know, the mentality of prepping, but it's not realistic for me right now. So why torture myself? I'm going to focus on trying something different and finding out more about myself in a different way through training for something else. I've never focused on strength training and powerlifting before. The last 5 years have been strictly weight loss. And so now I'm at a place where, okay, let's figure out what else I can do, instead of getting my brain constantly fixed on aesthetics, because it was driving me insane. It was literally like I was beating myself up for, you know, not looking a certain way. And as a woman, and as most people, like you said, we're always going to find something that we don't like, that we want to improve on. And if you're feeling fat, like we're always going to have those days. And usually for us women, it's during that time of the month. Every month, we're going to feel that way. So don't beat yourself up about it every single time you do, right? Like, your period is not a good time to start a weight loss program.
Or maybe it is. If you can make it through that, then
that's true.
It's the toughest hurdle is over and done with. It's going to happen every other month.
That's
if you want to start now, just start, innit?
Yeah, anytime.
All right, so I had a question on let's have a look. A question on somebody asked about Dr. Jason Fung on his calories in, calories out failing due to insulin resistance. Now, I don't know too much about him. I know he wrote the obesity code, and I have dipped in and out of listening to the obesity code here and there, and I don't agree with everything he says. I know he's, oh, by the way, I forgot to disclaim shit. Neither me or Jana are doctors, by the way. So whatever we're saying here is just opinion. And the thing is with Dr. Jason Fung is like, he's very much, I believe, a keto advocate, which is like, I like keto. I don't think it's appropriate for everybody. And calories in, calories out, it works. It definitely works. So there is, like, I think we spoke about this in the last live, you can get a metabolic adaptation can happen. But at the end of the day, if you are eating 500 calories or 800 calories every single day, you are probably going to end up being emaciated. That's just the reality of it. You don't see fat people from from countries that are struggling financially, and you don't see like fat anorexics. And that's because a lot of people don't eat properly. Obviously, it does happen, by the way. Like people do struggle in some countries, but what I mean is, you know what I'm trying to say, right? Like there's a problem with resources. Oh, let me do the super chat quickly, because let me just address it. So Amos, she says, what kind of foods do you later recommend when you have a craving or for period craving? What helps you? I tend to just ignore it for the most part, unless it's really desperate, and then after a couple of days, I'll give in. Oh, I think you've frozen for me. Maybe. Oh, I think you're back. Nope. Hold on. Are you there? Is she frozen for you guys? I think so, yeah. I'm not too sure. I think maybe we might have lost Jana, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, she's reloading. So yeah, so in terms of cravings, I think you have to listen to your body and be mindful, right? We did talk about this actually in the beginning. It was one of the first questions, is how we deal with cravings and periods, but I can hash it quickly because of the super chat. Just be mindful of your body, what your body craves. Oh, are you back?
I'm back.
I think so. Okay. Sorry, we just lost you there for a second. So yeah, I was just going to kind of rehash what we said in the beginning of the period. Just basically just listen to your body, think about if it's something you really want, like maybe give it a day or two and then eat it. Be mindful that maybe you do need to increase your calories, and just be mindful of it. If you really crave something, like you said, make sure you work it into your calories, so then that way you have what you want, and it's not necessarily going to ruin any progress.
Yeah, no, I agree. There was what we were talking about before we froze. Oh,
the calories in
versus calories out. First, it's important to understand like what insulin resistance actually is. A lot of people don't, like, their doctors or their coach or somebody will throw out the term, and people will get it in their head like, oh, I'm insulin resistant, which I used to think I was too. And I definitely had some insulin resistance. So insulin resistance is when you have a trouble using carbohydrates for energy. And this mostly occurs in people that are morbidly obese or obese. Usually it's a precursor to diabetes. So this means that you're constantly bombarding your body with so much carbohydrates that those insulin receptors in your body are basically saying, we don't need any more, like we're good.
Yeah.
Like they become so desensitized to carbohydrates that it often, like when you're taking in carbs and your body's going through the process of converting that to glucose, those receptors are putting all of that back out into your bloodstream to be stored as body fat instead of using it and storing it as energy, because it is already so, like, if you're not using calories, burning calories, and you're just constantly intaking them, your insulin receptors are going to almost get lazy because there's nothing for your body to do with those calories. You can't store anymore other than turn it into body fat because your muscles are not using those carbohydrates, right? So how you do that is making your body more insulin sensitive this is where like the keto doctors and stuff will come in and say, this is why you need to go on a carbohydrate diet or a low carb diet or a keto diet, is so that, you know, those receptors aren't constantly being bombarded all the time. It gives your body time for lipolysis to occur. It gives your body, you know, time to start burning off of those fat stores by depleting your body of carbohydrates. It doesn't have to be that way because a lot of diabetic diets still have carbs in them.
Yeah,
it's using low glycemic carbohydrate sources rather than high glycemic carbohydrate sources.
And it's just in moderation. Like you can still eat carbs, but you just don't have to make them like 80% of your diet. There's like, I rarely put anybody on a very low carb diet unless somebody's like, oh, I really just like eating keto. Then it's like, okay, if that's a lifestyle and that works for you, then great. But otherwise, everybody that I coach, they probably eat like at least like 100 to 150 grams of carbs a day. And there's the people that are like dieting, you know. So, and these are all often like obese ladies also. So you can still lose weight eating carbs. It's just like you say, the source of carbohydrates. And also what need is there. Because like I'm firmly of the opinion that the bigger you are, the less energy you expand. I mean, you could argue that the metabolism is fast, which it probably is. But in terms of energy of movement, there isn't that much there. So how much carbohydrates do you need? Do you need to eat 500 grams a day? And the quality of the food matters also, you know. A carbohydrate is not a carbohydrate. You can have a sugar or you can have like, I don't know, sweet potatoes, you know.
Yeah. And the same thing with like your insulin receptors. It's kind of the same. Like people will say, oh, you know, you can get metabolic damage from dieting. Well, metabolic damage isn't a true thing. And neither is your insulin receptors being damaged. There's been studies out there that prove that like if you lose weight, if you lose body fat, your insulin receptors will start to work properly again. So if that was true, like I'm eating 150 grams of carbs right now. So if that was true, I would be back to 300 pounds because of how many carbs I'm eating if I was insulin resistant to this day. And a lot of people will confuse intolerances in their diet for insulin resistance. So they'll eat something that their body has an intolerance to, or maybe they don't have the proper enzymes to digest. They'll get bloated, they'll retain water. If they're eating those things all the time, even if they reduce the intake of those certain foods, it's still going to cause bloating and water retention. And people might go, oh, well, I just can't lose weight because I'm insulin resistant. It's like, no, you're eating foods that you have an intolerance to, or you're still eating too many calories.
Yeah, that's to be honest, often when people reckon they're on like really low calories, they're not. Like more often than like, you don't get to be obese because you're eating too much. Like there maybe is like a 1 in a million person that has some sort of anomaly, but if you're overweight, it's probably because you don't realize how many calories you're consuming, which I think is the biggest. I don't think people realize like every little thing they add in, like that little dash of oil they're cooking with, is like, is that a tablespoon or is that 3 tablespoons? If there's 3 tablespoons, you're doing that for several meals, that's several hundred or hundreds of calories you're overeating. And I think people aren't being honest with themselves because they'll have like a Frappuccino. They're like complete sugar bombs. And it's like, okay, well, you've just had like a 300-400 calorie drink there. But it's all those little things added together. Or what people do is like, oh, they'll eat like 1,000 calories for a couple of days. And then they just go on a complete binge because they've just starved themselves. You don't have to. It's like, I think the key is just eating healthy and whole food and just cook most of your food from scratch yourself. So you know what goes in there. That's.
No, exactly.
It's radical, I know, but
I know it's well, that's the thing is, and a lot of people, you know, especially in this day and age, you know, with the whole fight against diet culture, people are like, well, I shouldn't have to track all of this and I shouldn't have to track all of that. But if you're a morbidly obese person or you're obese and you're wanting to lose weight or lose body fat, I should say, you have to be accountable to what you're eating. Like you have to know what your body, like where its points are. So for a lot of the time, people will say like, well, I'm dieting on 1,800 calories and I'm not losing weight, but yet they're grabbing a handful of this and a handful of that. And, you know, like they're taking snacks from, you know, their kids' leftovers and, you know, stuff like that. If you were to actually be accountable and track all of those things, you would notice you're probably eating over, you know, 400 to 500 calories. And if you're doing that every single day, you're increasing your overall weekly calorie intake. And people don't understand too is that when it comes to fat loss, a weekly deficit is truly what matters. So even if you have a day where you screw up, doesn't mean it screws up your whole week. But if you're constantly every single day overeating on calories, it's going to increase your weekly calorie intake, and that is going to cause you to gain weight or to maintain the same. And if you're eating 1,800 calories and you're still on point and you're not losing body fat, then you really haven't reached your calorie deficit yet. It means you need to either increase your exercise or decrease the amount of food that you're eating.
Yeah, and I think also, talking of calories, we'll get onto smartwatches in a second, but on that, I think there is this whole, I think diet culture in particular, they're making it so that eating 1,400 calories is bad. 1,400 calories is plenty for a lot of women. It's fine. If you are if you're a short woman that doesn't exercise, you don't need to eat 2,000 calories a day. And if you're morbidly obese, you don't need to eat 2,000. You can diet people on more, obviously, because they're just used to eat. If you're used to eating 3,000 calories, you can lose weight in 2.5. But the reality is like a lot of people can diet on like 1,200, 1,500 calories and be fine. It just depends on their energy output. It depends on their body composition. It depends on their height. So many factors go into it. Like me, as like a 5'8" female that's very muscular, like for me, 1,500 calories would be starvation. But for somebody who's like 5'1", 1,500 calories is probably perfectly fine, especially if they don't exercise. But there seems to be this whole scare around like, oh, well, we need to eat, there's too little calories. But you don't know. It depends on the individual. No two people are alike. And this whole average of like an average female, 2,000, is like, we're also different though. Like there's so many factors that go into it. I'm sure they've the maths make sense the way they've done it. But yeah. It's
so individualized. And that's why a lot of, if we're speaking of diet culture and fad diets and programs and stuff, the reason why they don't work is because they have a hard time individualizing for that person. And it's often unrealistic for that person. Yeah. So somebody will start a diet and realize that this isn't working for me. It doesn't fit into my lifestyle. I actually don't enjoy it. They end up going off of it and thinking, oh, well, there's something wrong with me. Or they'll try to demonize the diet by saying, oh, well, it was too low calories and, this and that, when really it was just not realistic for you. And everybody is different. And depending on your goals and where you are in your life, all of those things are also going to change. So I am not dieting the way, my nutrition has changed from when I was prepping last year. It's entirely different, which is a first for me, focusing on, eating more because I'm training differently. And you have to also be aware of your micronutrients. So if you are eating lower calories, you're not getting as many micronutrients. So then you supplement, and it's individualized for every single person. And it takes time to figure this out. And that is why people quit, is because they don't have the patience. They don't think long-term. They think in chunks of program time.
I want to lose weight for next month. It's not realistic, it took you a long time to put the weight on, so it's going to take a longer time to get it off, unfortunately. And I think it's really important to be realistic with people as well. So sometimes when I have consultations with people, because whenever I have a consultation, I always do WhatsApp FaceTime calls, because I just think it's more personal to try and understand what people's goals are. And sometimes I can't help people because their goals are just, for example, people sometimes come to me for strength programming, and I'm not a strength and conditioning coach. That's not something I can help somebody with, or it doesn't matter. But sometimes I will get girls and they're like, oh, can you make my body look like Cardi B? It's like, no, because Cardi B can't make her body look like Cardi B. It's all plastic. It's like, I can make your bum firmer. I can help you grow muscle, but it takes a long time to grow muscle. It's despite what what some people seem to assume, is it actually takes a very long time for women to build muscle. And yes, there is newbie gains, but the way you want to look, is that realistic? Is it realistic for you to get a six-pack? I can give people six-packs. Yeah, I can do it, but do you really want to be hungry all the time? Are you willing to make that commitment? That's the thing, right? Look, if you want to do that, but it's lifestyle. People just want to, in general, improve their physique and get stronger physically and mentally. But all of that takes time, and it's a journey that should be enjoyable. But obviously, you want to have results that are visible also. No,
and exactly, and remembering that it's it is that lifelong thing. it's for health. It is to be healthy. And having more muscle on your body, especially as women, you're fighting against
you can
osteoporosis.
eat more as well.
You can eat more. You have a faster metabolism. The more lean muscle mass you have, your hormones are more balanced. Your sex drive is better. Your skin gets better. Like there's so many benefits to like doing exercise and strength training and weight training for women in general, like men too, but for women. And thinking about it in the long term, like this is something that you're going to do for the rest of your life, not just to lose weight for a certain period of time. And changing and experimenting as you go along. Like people don't think about that long-term, the rest of their life. They think in short-term blocks, and then they get frustrated and overwhelmed and they don't want to do it anymore. But really it's about overall long-term health. That's the most important thing. And that looks different for every single person.
Yeah. Talking on smartwatches and the calories they burn, what's your thought on that? I think they can be inaccurate. I like them because it gives me a gauge of the intensity that I've trained at. I like it for that. But I think a very common mistake that people do is like, I went for a walk. I went for a 5 kilometer walk and I burned anywhere between 300 to 500 calories, depending on the speed that you walk, right?
Yeah.
That means now I can eat 500 calories more. No, that's not how it works. And I don't quite understand the science of it. I asked my coach about this, but apparently the calories burned on a watch and the way the metabolism works with the body is not the same, because you can do like, say, 200 calories of high intensity training and 200 calories of a steady walk. And the way the high intensity training works on the metabolism and the impact it has on the body is very different. So it's like, I don't quite understand it. I'll be honest about that. But I do know that just because, say, I burn like 1,000 calories in a workout, which that's not me being shady, by the way. That's just like a random number that came out. But just because I say burn like 700 calories in a workout, that doesn't mean that I need to eat 700 calories more.
No. And how the smartwatches actually like come up with that calculation is like it's taking a assumption of what you're burning and creating a mathematical equation when they do the programming for the smartwatch and just coming up with an estimate. And they can actually be up to 25 to 30% over or under. And so when you're actually looking at your smartwatch, it's really important to not take it as fact and being like, oh yeah, I definitely burned, 2,000 calories today. What I do is I use it as a way to track my trends. So if I know that on average, my smartwatch will tell me that I burn anywhere between 25 to 3,500 calories a day, depending on how many steps I get in and how much I'm moving around. So on my weekend days, I move around a lot less because I'm doing like a little bit of housework. I'm tired, so sometimes I'll take a nap on the weekends, things like that. I'm not moving around as much. My job is very demanding. I'm working out, plus I'm also on my feet all day at the vet clinic. I'm lifting, 60 to 7-pound dogs sometimes, and wrestling with them and all sorts of things. So I tend to burn more when I'm working. So I'll use that as a base of like on the weekends, I know that I maybe to keep my weekly deficit in check, I need to be moving more. If I look at my watch and it's, 6 p.m. and I realize that I normally burn, or I'm normally walking 10,000 steps, but I only got in 8,000, maybe I'll go for a walk. Like it's just a way to keep track of your habits and your trends. And if you obviously are working out more and you're like, say last week you had 10,000 steps, this week you want to do 11,000. Well, then you're going to be increasing a calorie deficit because you're moving more, you're working out more. Maybe it's your goal. You normally burn 2,300 calories on your smartwatch. Maybe it's your goal that overall you want to burn 2,500. Today you did a workout and only burned 400 calories according to your smartwatch. In order to burn more calories than that, you just got to push a little bit harder. So just use it as an estimate, use it to track your trends. Don't take it for truth because they are not in your body. There is no true way to actually determine how much you're burning. So unless you go and get a very in-depth DEX scan and tests done that costs hundreds of dollars, you're never going to know. So just use it as an estimate.
Sorry, I muted myself because I was changing
go.
headsets. I'm back. Sorry. It's because this one was running out of battery.
Oh, no.
Basically, on the DEXA scan, I also think it is important to say that any fat measurement things you have, whether it's a scale at home or in the gym or anything that works on electrodes in supermarkets, they're not accurate. They can vary depending on how much sodium you've had, how much water you've had. There is a lot that goes into it, and there's very few accurate ways of measuring body fat. And I think the DEXA is probably the most accurate.
It is, yeah. It's the most scientific based. But just to get a really good idea is when you're exercising, there is like a kind of estimate chart you can find online that tells you like what your heart rate should be for the type of exercise and for your body weight and your age. So this is a really good way to monitor just if you are burning enough calories during your exercise. Simple enough, 2 fingers, jugular vein, count for 15 seconds, times it by 4, and that's going to give you your heart rate per minute. So if you are doing strength training and you're burning and you have a heart rate of 120, you're doing really good. That's really good. You're burning fat. In that fat burning zone is between 100 and to 130 calories or beats per minute. Above 130, you're starting to get into cardiovascular exercise. So with your weight training sessions, you will kind of always want to be between 100 and 130 beats per minute. That's going to be a good fat burning zone.
So I'm like, if I'm doing weight training, I'm at like 150, 170. And that's am I echoing for you?
Pardon?
Am I echoing for you?
No, am I echoing for you?
No, because it could just be that this headphones are slightly different and it's picking up a bit more. I'll have one more question and then we'll open up the chat for a little while. Okay. So basically, it's around prep. And I'll let you answer first. So it's like, what's your best memories? How do you feel like your tattoos have affected your judging on stage? What's your favorite body part to train? And also, like, how do you deal with people talking negatively on your body? You know, you look like a man. Oh, really?
For me, well, I've only ever done 2 shows. And my first one was I entered just a regular amateur figure show because I wanted to celebrate like my first 200-ish pounds that I lost, and just kind of like dip my feet in. Just a first show, just to see how it went, to see if I liked it. I was in no way like competition shape, and I knew that, and I did a lot of mental prep leading into that show. And I had a lot of negativity back from that show, and that's fine. The reason like people just, again, are not going to always agree. Like shows are such a tough one. Like you have to be really mentally stable when you do a show because you are being judged on your body. And there's going to be hardcore fans there of bodybuilding that are going to be super judgmental and they're going to have opinions. And nowadays with it being online, people can post those opinions anywhere. And it only takes like one thing for it to blow up in your face. And so you have to be mentally prepared. I took the time to work on that. Even like afterwards, there's always going to be negativity. And to me, it's like those people are strangers. They don't know me. They're only seeing what's in front of them at that time. They don't know how hard you worked, what you had to do to get there. So you have to be satisfied in yourself and you have to be mentally solid in that satisfaction of yourself, knowing that you did your best and there's always room to improve and just being proud of yourself. My second show was an actual transformation challenge where I, not challenge, but as a transformation show with the WBFF, where I actually got to celebrate my weight loss, having my photo up behind me when I stepped on stage, my before photo. It was very liberating. And that was my favorite because I got to share my journey with transformation. Regular bodybuilding shows are for bodybuilding. People expect a certain aesthetic when they show up. And if somebody fits outside of that aesthetic, it's received negatively. But with the transformation show, people are expecting people to have loose skin and to not be super cut and, to explain their story. So there's a difference there. The second one I loved because I got to explain my story. I got to showcase my weight loss. I loved my first show too, because it was an experience and it reminded I have this drive, and it didn't tear me down. It made me stronger. It made me want to come back again. And that is why I am taking this time to get myself to that place, because that is my real drive. And I want to be so 100% ready when I come back to that, that, there's no doubt that I belonged there. So, and in terms of my favorite body parts to train, shoulders and ass.
Yeah.
Glutes. Yeah.
And how do you deal with negative comments?
I just ignore them. It's like, who cares? Those people are taking time out of their day to say something negative. Like, how sad that must be for them, that that's their life. So why should I care what a person who I don't know on the internet is saying about me, that their life is so sad that they're taking time out of their day to comment negative against somebody else. So I'm doing my own thing, and I'm not going to let the opinion of a complete stranger determine the outcome of whether or not I'm successful.
Yeah. So my best memory, I don't really know, to be honest. Like, it's always kind of like a bit of a blur, a bit of a haze. I think I just love being on stage. There is just something about being like that moment before you get on stage, the nerves, and then like they shout your name out, and you're all dolled up, and like you've got a nice bikini on, and you just get on there, and like I always just feel really sexy when I'm on stage, and like I very much have that. I kind of like, I portray that. I feel like I portray it. Like, people have a personality on stage. You're like, so you're either like kind of cutesy and happy, or, you're like kind of sultry. And I do that. I feel sexy. Like, I feel like I'm flirtatious on stage. And it's like, I just feel really, really good at that time. And it's like the run up to it is like always hard. And then afterwards it's hard. But just that moment of being on the stage, it just makes everything worth it. If you're lucky, that 5 minutes that you get, that somebody is going to judge you, don't care about you, what you look, just how you look. That's all they care about. But they're just judging you, and just you have your 5 minutes of just being, I don't know, having people stare at you. It's like, I love it personally. I think that's great. As for the tattoos, like, I do think it can work against you. I think they're a lot more open about it nowadays, but I'll be honest, like, it is harder to see definition, because I do have some pretty big pieces on my legs and stuff, and you can't see the definition as well. I don't think I've ever been necessarily marked down for it, but I think if I was to be in a lineup next to a girl who has basically the same similar physique to me, say, like, for example, my quads are stronger but her hamstrings are stronger, or like my biceps are stronger but her triceps are stronger, whatever, right? It doesn't matter. So, but we're kind of scoring equally. I think that my tattoos will probably inadvertently work against me, and that's just a reality of it, because you can't see the definition as well as where you can with somebody who doesn't have tattoos. And at the end of the day, they're judging you on how you look. They're a lot more open on it. I think they used to be even, like, not banned, but yeah, it used to be a really bad idea to even compete with tattoos, but they're getting more open to it. But it's just one of those things, like, I can't not have tattoos. And I know they have special like makeup that covers the tattoos. Yeah. It makes you look worse, because I was thinking about doing that, and the tan ladies, they always say that don't bother, because it looks even worse, because you can tell, like, it just looks really matte, and obviously on stage everything has to look shiny for the light to reflect, so you can see all the shades and the muscle and the definition and all of that. But yeah, they always say, like, don't bother with the cover-up stuff, because it just looks worse. My favorite body part is going to be honestly, I like training everything pretty much, except for calves and biceps. But I like training my legs, and I like training my back. And I'll tell you why. Big backs and big legs, that's not genetics, guys. I mean, you can grow them quicker, but a big back and big legs, that's somebody that's fucking put into work. You can say what you want. Everybody has a bicep, everybody has biceps. People get good chest, people get abs, but see fucking big legs, big wide backs. That person has lived in some hard, heavy shit. They've literally gone through the blood, sweat, and tears, and that's just a sign of hard work to me. So that's why I like training them, and they're the hardest. Like, that's where you, like, learn to overcome yourself.
Yes.
Like this is where you look at yourself and you realize what you're made of. Like it's so humbling to realize, I don't know, you can be so proud of yourself, and at the same time sometimes you're going to the squat work and I struggle with 60 and I'm like, God damn it, like what happened to like repping like 110 120, like I'm here doing 60s. It's like, damn. But it's just, obviously it is what it is. But yeah, legs and back always. And the negative comments about my body, I only get negative comments online. In real life, it never happens. In real life, people are always complimentary. It only happens online, and it's only people that think they're trying to, I don't know what they're trying to do, to be honest. It's like, I always say this, but I did not get like this by accident. I worked very hard to look like this. I didn't sit on the sofa eating fucking takeout all day long and then suddenly got big. Like that's something that happens by accident. That happens where you're not aware of it. This is me getting up every day at 4 o'clock and going to the gym when I don't want. This is me making the right choices on my plate most of the time. This did not happen by choice. Oh no, it did happen by choice. This happened by choice. I'm going on. But this is hard work, you know? And that's what people say. Like, it's not an insult because I know what I look like. I'm fully aware of what I look like. It's no secret to me. It's not like I have a mirror where I see something that I think I'm like some very dainty little petite girl. No, I know I'm a big bitch. I know I am.
Yeah.
In all senses, I know I stand out in the crowd and it's fine. I love it.
And that's like the biggest thing is like confidence too. It's just like when you're confident in yourself, negative comments don't bug you. Yeah. And like for me, like even when I did my first show and when I did my second show, like the confidence was there. Like more so in the second show, like I knew when I stepped out, like I had so much confidence, and you carry that with you. Like even with you, it's like you have that confidence when you train, you have that confidence in yourself. So it's not going to affect you if somebody says something negative. And I have to like kind of circle back. You're right. Back is definitely one of my favorite days because you feel like when you have a hard back or leg day, you feel like such a badass after you walk out of the gym because you lifted so heavy, and lifting heavy gives you confidence too, because it's hard work and you go in and you crush some weights. You get to leave going like, yeah, I killed it. And confidence is a huge thing that it takes time to develop, but it comes with, and that's why I love training and I love bodybuilding and I love doing shows, is because it gives me confidence. Like
it does.
Somebody is always going to have something negative to say. So
it's just life, isn't it? You can't worry. The opinions of others shouldn't matter to you. Literally, like who's a stranger? Like, why do you care about what a stranger thinks? Let them have their opinions. Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I think these are the questions that I have written down. I'll open up the chat, and what I'll do is I'll bring some on screen and we'll go through a couple of them. How are you doing time-wise?
Oh, I'm good.
Okay, well, give it like another half an hour or so because I want to like eat some food and stuff soon.
Yeah, no, me too. I haven't eaten breakfast yet.
Do you know what? I'm like, are you still doing fasting or not? You didn't get on with that, did you?
No. Okay. So, and that's something else too, is like another reason why I didn't want to be like uploading a bunch of stuff to YouTube is because I was trying and experimenting and I didn't want people to get the wrong idea. So I had tried intermittent fasting and it went so negative. And this is why I say to people, try things, because you don't know if it works for you until you try it. So for me, when I was intermittent fasting, I started getting like really lightheaded. The first week was great. I'll probably do 24-hour fasts because that was amazing. I felt great after that. But then I continued on into intermittent fasting and I would get lightheaded. I would feel nauseous. My brain energy, everything just tanked. And I tried it for 2 whole weeks to the point where it was starting to affect my job. And I was like, I can't stick this out anymore. It's not working for me. And so I just went back to doing what I was doing, which it works. It was just, it's like, if there's something better, why not do that? So experimenting with things to see if maybe this is better for my lifestyle, but it went the opposite direction. So I put the stall on that because my job is so important. I can't afford to make a mistake. So
yeah. So I've got a question here. Can you see those, by the way, if I put them on screen? You can. Okay, good. Yeah. I don't know what you can see. So what is more dangerous, skinny fat or obese, in regards to fat stored between organs? I'm going to say obese because you're probably more likely to have still other comorbidities with it besides fat that sits around organs. But I'm not 100% sure on that, to be honest.
Obesity is probably going to be worse in terms of fat around your organs because you have visceral
More
fat.
of it. Yeah.
So, and the problem with visceral fat is that it's extremely hard to almost impossible to lose because it's a different type of fat than the fat that you see on top of muscles. So the fat that is in visceral fat is like in and around your organs. And the more visceral fat you gain, the more pressure that is putting on your organs. In terms of somebody who is anorexic, that is maybe lacking visceral fat, like people will always have visceral fat until they get to the point of like, they're literally like skin and bones. Like at that point, your organs are shutting down. And that's pretty dangerous as well. So if you have a lack of visceral fat is also dangerous. But in terms of obesity, that visceral fat, you can always gain visceral fat. It's almost impossible to lose it. So the more people yo-yo diet, especially if they're obese, they're constantly gaining visceral fat, constantly gaining pressure in and around their organs. And fat is a living tissue. So it requires blood and nutrients and macronutrients, micronutrients, oxygen, all that sort of stuff to live. So your body has to work twice as hard. The more visceral fat and more body fat you have in general, your body is working so much harder to survive and to live. Yeah. Yeah.
So another question. What can a woman do to focus muscle gains in areas? For example, focus on arm gains. Sorry. Oh, just like my food from earlier was repeating on me. I apologize. So yeah, you can gain muscle in certain areas by just training them more, doing progressive overload. So for example, I have weak hamstrings in terms of mind-muscle connection. And the same for my rear delts, because I trained my delts too heavy for too long. And therefore my traps have always taken over. And what you have to do is you often have to scale back the weight, go very slow tempo, make sure that whatever the muscle is that you're trying to engage, that you are actually engaging it, because it could just be like actually other muscle groups are taking over, and this is why there is no growth there. And you want to just hit it a couple of times a week, and you want to hit it through different overloads. Maybe have a heavy day, and maybe have a day that's high repetition and slow tempos. And also it's genetics. Like I don't train my calves ever, pretty much. I have humongous calves, but I know people that have to do calves almost every single day. I have very good abs naturally. I have a fairly decent, I'm fairly proportionate naturally, but some people will just have a very good chest and they'll have a very shit back. So it's genetics as well as just progressive overload, and just make sure you hit it properly and you have a right connection.
Yeah. Frequency training is also really important too. So training that body part multiple times a week is also really important. For example, for me, I genetically don't have to train legs that often just because they are hyper responsive because of my past in being obese. So when you're obese, when you get up and down from a toilet, from a chair, when you're walking up and down stairs, your lower body is carrying that load. So most often you're going to see people that have lost weight that have overdeveloped lower body because their body is so used to carrying such a heavy load around. Their legs are just hyper responsive because you're constantly, frequently training those body parts. If you're in the gym and you say you want to build, if your glutes are smaller and you want to build bigger glutes, well, you need to put stress on the muscle so that that muscle can create more fibers. And the way you do that is by lifting heavy, creating stress, but also creating that stress more often is going to create more muscle fibers so that your body is getting that signal to say, hey, this person is constantly doing these squats. We need to build more muscle fibers to keep up with that. And in terms of diet, you have to make sure that those muscles are nutritionally supported by having carbohydrates in the system to support that lift, but also having adequate enough protein to encourage the redevelopment of those muscle fibers.
And also in terms of, for example, like a glute or like a hamstring, it may not necessarily be that you have to go in straight to just doing heavy compounds, because sometimes with a heavy compound, it may just be that you have such dominant body parts that they take over. So for example, for myself, because I have weak hamstrings, I would do squats at the end of a session. I would have to pre-fatigue the hamstring muscle through various means of tempos, through high repetition, just different fatiguing exercises, and then I would do my squat, because it's only then that I would actually get the engagement in the squat. And for example, with your squat, like a lot of it is stance as well. Like there's a lot to the mechanics of training where just foot positioning, wrist positioning, it will all make it, especially with your shoulders, the way you hold your wrist and the angle of the body, it will hit completely different parts. And sometimes you just have to play around with it. But if you find it's just train it a couple of times a week, and don't just go heavy, but do both heavy as well as high repetitions and slower tempos.
Yeah. And pairing compound movements with isolation exercises. So if you're going in and you're doing an upper day, you're training back and you're training biceps, well, a bent over barbell row is going to train both back and biceps. And then later on in the workout, if you go and do some bicep curls, you're isolating that exercise. So it's a good idea to pair compound movements with 1 or 2 isolation exercises in that workout to help build that muscle group.
Yeah. When you can't eat much and find it difficult to get all your nutrition needed for building muscle, would protein shakes help with that? Yeah, I mean, I think I use protein shakes. They are a supplement at the end of the day. It isn't, you always are better off eating like an actual protein source. Protein shakes taste nice. Like I use them as more like a dessert in the day. I never have a protein shake after training. But if you're really struggling to get calories in, you can looking into doing protein shakes, and then maybe add in something like a green supplement, and maybe just stick in some peanut butter if you're just low on calories and you want to add some more, I don't know, like even some oats, mix that into there. So if you're struggling to eat foods, then having shakes can help. But obviously it is better to eat real food, in my opinion, as much as possible.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And it also is a little bit vague, like why can't you eat much? Is it due to a medical condition? Is there something else that's going on? Because I know for me, when I would work with clients who had weight loss surgery, bariatric surgery, and then they've hit a plateau, it's really hard to get in all their nutrients because their stomach is only so big. So sometimes your choice is to go with shakes, because that is the best way to get in a large amount of nutrients in such a small amount because of the size of their stomach. And also leading like higher fat foods, because fat is higher in calories. There's 9 calories per gram of fat. So if you're worried about not getting enough calories, a higher fat diet with higher protein, like not keto, but carbohydrates are quite a voluminous food most often. If you're eating complex carbohydrates like a sweet potato or rice, like that's a pretty big volume. But you could also try adding a tablespoon of olive oil. A tablespoon of olive oil paired with, like, if you were to have a protein shake that was protein shake with a banana and peanut butter, well, you're getting a lot of nutrients. You're getting fats, you're getting carbs, you're getting protein. So it depends also on why you're can only eat so much, and just thinking in terms of like how maybe you're eating more frequent, smaller meals throughout the day instead of big meals all at one time. So you just have to play around with it and see what works best for you.
Yeah. Are there any diet changes you can make to reduce loose skin? Does high protein help? I'm going to say like the only thing that can help a little bit is water intake and collagen, but at the same time, there's no creams that exist. If you have bad cellulite, you can't put a cream on it and it disappears, and loose skin is loose skin. There's nothing that's gonna, from what I know, that's gonna make it bounce back. And I'm sure you would know more because you'd be right in there with that cream, wouldn't you?
I'm right in there.
Or that food, yeah.
My loose skin on my stomach is terrible. It's actually like my biggest issue with self-confidence, because I know that I've got killer abs and it's just so hard. Like, and I could diet until it's just hanging off of me, but it's still going to be there because that skin has been stretched out for, like, if you take a hair elastic and you stretch it out for a long period of time, it's going to lose that elasticity. Same thing with skin. If you have filled that skin for so long and then you take away what was filling it, it's going to constantly, sorry, I just saw that question. It's not going to go back to normal. If you have minor loose skin, you could have more collagen to encourage the development of skin cells, drinking more water, keeping hydrated, eating a well-balanced diet of fruits, vegetables, complex carbohydrates, and protein is going to help you be nutritionally supported, which is also going to encourage healthy skin cell development. But for massive skin loss or weight loss, loose skin, surgery.
Yeah.
Or living with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or living with it.
So Kate Winslet has a question for us. Whether or not takis are considered protein. I don't know what taki is.
You know what takis are? Oh my gosh.
What is it?
I am sending you a bag.
What is it? Is it like crisps or something?
I'm going to send you Canadian snacks.
I'll do it. Somebody else is going to send me some snacks as well.
Nobody else gets to send. I'm sending you Canadian snacks. Just me. Nobody else.
What are they though? What is it? Are they like crisps?
Takis are like hot. Like, do you have Doritos? Do you have?
Yeah.
So they're like hot Doritos, but they're like rolled up. They're like a Dorito churro, but spicy.
Right.
It's like the same shape. I don't know. They're good, but they're spicy.
I'm sure there is protein in there, but as a source of protein, it's going to be enough for me.
It's fats and carbs, straight fats and carbs. If we're answering this lot, like literally fats and carbs.
Yeah.
But I mean, Takis are amazing. So
I've never had them. Somebody asked about around the menstrual cycle. We talked about it at the beginning of the live stream. So best wait for this to go live. I will leave the video up, and then we'll talk about it there. So.
Oh, but there was one that says, "How do you deal with the loss of your menstrual cycle while losing weight training?"
I'm scan reading. That's my bad.
But that is a good question, though. That is.
I like ice cream. I know.
I love ice cream.
Go ahead.
Oh, how do you deal with the loss of your menstrual cycle when you're losing weight or training? That's a sign that you need to stop weight loss. If you are losing weight and you've reached a point where you're no longer getting your menstrual cycle, that means that your hormones, that you've gone too far and that your hormones are way out of balance. So you can continue to train unless you are training to extremes, like multiple times a day or extremely long sessions and you're overtraining. My suggestion would be is to start working with a dietitian or coach or doing a reputable person, not just Abby Sharp, on how to get your menstrual cycle back, because it means your calories are too low and your body is stressed. So you need to start increasing your calories again, specifically fats. Fats are really important for hormone balance and production. So working your way backwards, it's time to reverse diet if you've reached this point.
Yeah. So in terms of like, obviously for a bodybuilding show, this is normal. This is what's going to happen. But I think it shouldn't really happen until like a month or two out from a show. So normally when I diet usually 3-4 months, and it's only like in the last month that my period will disappear, and I fully expect that because I'm that low in body fat. But at the same time, usually a month after, and having a reverse diet and coming gaining a little bit more body fat, it tends to return again. So I think it becomes more problematic if you're in a prolonged period of probably low body fat. I don't know. Does it go away when you're high body fat? Well, maybe it doesn't actually, because like obviously we know that Amber had a lot of period problems.
Well,
so
if your hormones are unbalanced, which can happen when you're overweight as well. When you're obese, you can get things like PCOS and endometriosis and things like that, which can occur in normal, healthy weight-sized individuals as well. But that tends to be like something that obese people struggle with, is because their hormones are so out of whack that their body is not producing the right hormones, because obesity, their body is struggling with other organ functions. So your sex functions or your sex organs and hormones is something that your body or leave. It is not important for survival of yourself. So when you have an issue where your hormones are out of balance because your body's trying to survive because you're too obese, and a lot of the nutrients and blood and oxygen and things like that are going to the important organs like your brain, your heart, your lungs, your liver, your pancreas. You know, your body doesn't need to have a baby to survive. So it's going to start shuffling all of that stuff to more important functions. Same thing when you're dieting down and you reach a low body fat percentage, your body is going to start utilizing nutrients that you're taking in for other important body functions. Same thing on, the other end. But it's okay, like with bodybuilding shows, like you said, to stay there for a short period of time. It's like basically just like a month. For me, I never had it completely disappear, but I can tell you that at my last show, because I had been dieting for so long and down to the amount of calories that I got to and the amount of exercise that I was doing, I could tell my body was getting stressed because my periods light, like they were on the way of stopping completely. So it's a good indicator that like it's time to back off a little bit. You don't want to stay there for very long, if I'll ever get to that point, unless you're doing something like a bodybuilding show where you're there for a very short period of time.
Yeah. How do you know what workout is good for you? Looking to lose fat and gain muscle. So this comes partially with experience, because you need to be able to listen to your body at all times. So if the way I train is, if I feel strong, I lift heavy. If I don't feel strong, I'll scale it back. I focus on tempos. I focus on form. I focus on like higher repetitions, supersets, and a good workout. A routine, like the way I see it, if you were to just train yourself, just make sure you don't end up doing the same thing every single workout. So every time you go into the gym and it's leg day, you start off with this, do 4 sets of 10 every single time, and then this, 4 sets of 10, because that may work initially, but at some point you need to have that stimulation there. Like otherwise you just stagnate. But what's a good split? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know you, so I can't tell you what's good for you. But in general, it's just mix things up. Keep it fresh. Keep it interesting.
Yeah. If you're just beginning, get away with doing anything, and you're going to see an increase in muscle gain and body fat because you get that newbie gains. Your body is doing something different that it wasn't doing before, so it's a little bit shocked, and it's going to be hyper responsive. If you're thinking that you want to lose fat and gain muscle, it's a good idea to pair resistance training with cardio. The reason being is like a lot of people get mixed up. Like, yes, you do burn calories during a weight training session, but it's not the same calories that you would be burning for cardio. So your body uses calories in a different way when you're training resistance training and when you're doing cardiovascular type exercise. So the way that I explain it to my clients is that strength training is to shape and mold your body. Cardio is to help lose the fat that are on top of the muscles. While weight training does help burn body fat, you want to increase your overall calorie deficit, and you're going to severely injure or hurt yourself if you're constantly training weights and not giving your muscles a break. But cardio exercise you can do all the time. Not that you want to overdo it in cardio either, but using cardio just to increase your overall daily energy expenditure is going to help you lose fat.
Yeah. And I think there's a real big stigma around cardio. Look, if you're, I don't need any water. It's fine.
Oh, what a good husband. What a good husband.
No, he's being told off by Teresa. That's why. She's telling him off in the chat. She's been winding him up all the time about the water. I think the thing with cardio is like it gets a bad reputation. Like it gets a reputation. But I enjoy doing cardio. I think it makes me feel good. It's like some time to wind down, spend some time going through, I don't know, comment sections. Thanks, both. Or, just like I like to go out for a walk at the moment because the weather is nice. Mm-hmm. And it's like if you have a healthy cardiovascular system, it means you can actually lift more because I don't know, like I said, we talked about it earlier. When I train at high intensity, my heart rate is 150, 170. So guaranteed that cardio that I'm doing, it helps. So don't be afraid to do cardio. It's just that if you want to do extreme cardio, like going for like a run that's like half-mile runs and stuff like that, just make sure you eat more. If you want to keep cardio in, just make sure you eat more. But I don't think people should not do cardio at all. I think you should always do cardio. Just the intensity, not so much, and the amount of it, not so much, maybe.
And it doesn't need to be as extreme as people think that it has to be. Like there's been a recent study done that over with cardio, if you do 3 10-minute short intervals of cardio during the day, like a walk, like 3 10-minute walks, that's increasing your overall daily energy expenditure. That's all. Like cardio is great to build the strength of your organs. Like your heart is a muscle. your lungs, and just developing a good my brain is dying right now.
Yeah.
Develop a good, healthy metabolism. You're going to be burning through all of those calories and stuff that you're eating when you're doing a cardio session. And so your body's going to be like, all right, like this person is outputting more energy. We need to be more efficient. So it does a lot for your body, not just in terms of fat loss, but it doesn't work extreme. You don't have to like go out and like run 10K or to do a crazy hit, something like that. It could be as simple as doing a couple of 10 to 15 minute walks a day, or doing an hour walk in the morning, or on the treadmill, or doing a cycle class or something. It doesn't need to be extreme, because the moment that you make it extreme, it's harder to keep up with.
Yeah.
And then you're going to lose the
body gets used. It's not even that the body gets.
And you have to keep one-upping all the time.
Yeah. It's like, this is when you hear horror stories of people in prep doing like 3-4 hour cardio a day. It's like, that's not the starting point, but
nobody wants to do that. Nobody has time for that.
Yeah. So I think we should call it a day, because it's almost been an hour and a half, and I'm getting a bit hungry. I'm sure you're getting hungry too.
Oh yes. The tummy's growling.
All right.
For sure.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for everybody that was here, and thank you for joining. I will keep this up, and we'll definitely do these again. It's been fun. You guys had some very good questions, and just keep your eyes peeled. Make sure to subscribe to Jana. She'll be uploading at some point again.
Very soon, yes.
She does vlogs and all of that sort of stuff. Sometimes reactions, but a lot of interesting vlogs. So make sure to go and check her out. And thanks to everybody for coming.
Yeah, see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.